Now today, I'm going to be showing you how to change a serpentine belt on an 04 Grand Am. Now this worked for several other years as well, and with the 3.4. Now, I know I've gotten some slack before about changing the alternator or power steering pump without showing how to completely remove the belt, which in my opinion, there is no need to fully remove the belt to change those accessories. Now the easiest thing to do in that case is just to release the tension from the belt tensioner and just remove the belt from the accessory itself, such as the alternator or power steering. Now that allows the rest of the belt to sit where it should be, and then it's just easier to put it back over whichever one you change and those full few pulleys around it without having the hassle of trying to reroute the whole belt itself. Now also, the belts on these are kind of hard, not hard to change, tedious to change, because it involves removing the motor mount and lifting the engine slightly. And that's what we're going to do. The first thing we got is I have a low profile jack under the engine, under the oil pan. Now do not just put a jack straight up against the oil pan. You need to use a decent size wood block of some kind to distribute the weight transfer there, so it doesn't put a lot of pressure into one spot of the oil pan and cause damage. But what we're gonna do, I already have it, the jack is under there, and we have it just enough pressure where it's just up against the engine. That way when we unbolt the mounts up here, it's not going to drop. So we're going to go under here and start. Alright, now the first thing I'm going to do is get this out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and remove these two nuts right here, which is a 15 millimeter. Alright, now with an 18 millimeter, we're going to remove these two bolts right here. Now on the tensioner, which is below the alternator, you take a 1/2 inch drive ratchet, and to make it a little easier, I have a vice grip on the end of it just to get a little bit more leverage on it. There is a square peg on this side of the tensioner that you can put the ratchet in and pull it towards the front of the car to release the tension. Then you can take the belt off around the nearest pulley, and once it's off the nearest pulley, then you can release the tension slowly, because it is spring loaded and the tension will kick at you. Then we can remove the belt. Now removing the belt is pretty easy. If you do not have the diagram that's usually sitting right here, be sure before you pull the belt off to memorize how it travels. But for the most part, remember, the back side, the groove side of the belt, will always be lining up into the grooves on a pulley. The flat side will always ride the flat side of a smooth pulley. What we're going to go ahead and do, go ahead and remove the belt from around everything. And this little gap that we created here by removing the motor mount plate, we can actually pull it through. Now it's going to be difficult to show you because it's such a tight space. I'm just going to slide the new belt through that groove. I'm going to start around the crank pulley and the air conditioning pulley and basically put it back as it was originally. Now hopefully you either have the diagram here, or you took pictures, or have a photogenic memory, just to make sure you get everything rerouted as it was, so everything is working 100% accurately and properly. Now do remember that a newer belt will probably will be a little bit tighter, and it will be a little bit snugger fit when you pull tension on the tensioner. So it may be a little bit difficult to get it on at first, but once you have routed pretty much everything, the way I like to do it is I will actually, like on this car here, since it's easier for me to reach the alternator, I will actually have the belt already on the tensioner, so as I'm pulling, this will get closer to the alternator and I can just slip it up here instead of trying to reach down below. Set that in there like that. Get that belt back lined up. Right now I got my ratchet back on. I'm getting the belt ready. Now, this is probably a good case where you probably want two people. One person to pull, someone you trust, pull this to hold the belt tensioner with enough slack so you can get the belt on. Otherwise, if the person lets go and your finger's under there, it's gonna hurt. But if you're by yourself, make sure you have plenty of leverage. Because you're going to need it, especially with a new belt. Alright, now that we got it lined up, we got a ratchet on the tensioner again. Now we're going to try to use everything we got to, with one hand, pull the tensioner back so that we can get the belt onto the alternator. That seems to be usually the easiest way to do it for me. Now this would be a lot easier if you had two people doing this. One person that you really trusted to hold the leverage onto the tensioner, because if they let go and your fingers under that belt, it's going to hurt. So we're going to make sure we move the tensioner, and we are going to get it, hopefully, enough to get the belt over the alternator. Now this can be kind of hard and tricky to do, just because of lack of room and the fact it is a new belt and it's much tighter than the old one. But there we are. Everything is looking good. All the pulleys line up with the belt, which they should on serpentine anyway, but there we are. Now we're just going to go back and start putting the mount back on. We'll get these nuts started and get the bolt started. Now I'm just going to go ahead and tighten down the nuts first, And then, depending on where it's at, I may have to raise or lower the engine just a little bit. Make sure these are tightened to where they need to be. Make sure the engine is where it's at, where it's supposed to be at. Alright, now that we've got these tightened down and we got the engine where it should be, and we lowered the jack, we're going to go just back over one more time after that, after it's been lowered, and make sure everything is still tight. Now I'm going to put this back, which I took this bar out of the way for the video. You don't have to completely remove it. I also took this completely out of the way for the video. You don't have to do that either. It's just easier to see what I was doing. But we will just go ahead and put this back where it was. And it just snaps right back into place. Alright, there it is. We changed the serpentine belt on our Grand Am. Now, changing the belt itself is actually fairly easy. The tedious part is the engine mount plate that's in the way, and that's necessary to get the old belt out, the new one in. Now, in theory, you can cut the old belt, but you're still going to have that gap there to put the new one in. So, you can cut, but you're still going to have to remove the plate. So, but now, if you don't cut the belt, you can use the old one for a spare, which is what I'm doing on this car. So, I put it in the trunk, so now there's a spare. Now, the old one, it was a little stretched out, but still, if anything happened on the side of the road, well, you can easily just, for the most part, throw the old belt on and get it home without having to call a wrecker. You can actually probably just drive by the auto parts store, grab a new one, and then be done with it. So, not a bad idea to keep the old one. Now, like I said, it was, for the most part, pretty easy. Just a little tedious, doesn't take too long, so hopefully that helped all of you out. And as always, thanks for watching.